Hello everyone, my name is Frederick Lopez, and today I'm going to be going over the 2013 film Man of Steel. So yeah, Man of Steel is a reboot of the Superman series. The previous film before this was Superman Returns, released in 2006. Man of Steel was originally going to be a 2009 sequel to that, with Brandon Routh and Bryan Singer returning. It was delayed, and Warner Brothers decided to do a reboot. They were running into some legal trouble with the heirs of Superman, Siegel and Schuster, and Smallville was just finishing up. They had to make a live-action Superman film. Now, originally when Henry Cavill was cast, I was kind of hesitant. I'm like, it's a British Superman, and it's not Tom Welling. I really was a fan of Smallville. I wanted to see a Smallville movie. But ultimately, it was the best decision, and he looks like the character. You look at comic book paintings, you look at Alex Ross paintings, you look at Henry Cavill. He really does embody pretty much the best elements physically of Superman from different incarnations of the past. He really is a mixture of Tom Welling, Christopher Reeve, with a bit of the comics. And Zack Snyder was hired to direct Superman, which I thought was a brilliant move. He did 300, and I really was a fan of his adaptation of Watchmen. Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer did the story, and Christopher Nolan was producing this right after the Dark Knight trilogy was just concluded with The Dark Knight Rises. Man of Steel stars Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, Russell Crowe as Jor-El. Yeah, his fathers are played by two Robin Hoods, and Michael Shannon as General Zod. So Man of Steel is pretty much an origin film. It starts off on planet Krypton. We're introduced to Russell Crowe as Jor-El. The best opening. As a matter of fact, the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is probably better than the rest of the movie, or the movie as a whole. I love the opening of this. Hans Zimmer's score is so fantastic. General Zod is introduced. We get to see the destruction of Krypton and them releasing Kal-El into space on towards Earth. It doesn't follow the usual trajectory as we think it would. It's told in flashbacks. It's very much inspired by Batman Begins. It's really kind of disjointed at the beginning, and we get to see his origin through different memories, through different flashbacks. He works as a fisherman. He's traveling. He works at a bar. We get to see his different travels and him basically keep a secret but not use his abilities, and we get to see why. We get to see the Kents find him, played by Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. I really like their portrayal of the Kents. Sure, it is a bit more of a modern Jonathan and Martha Kent. If there's any con I had against this, is that Jonathan Kent's methods and just ideology is a bit harsh and is not as inspiring as the Jonathan Kent we have come to love in previous incarnations. But at the same time, this is almost like a real story. What would it really be like in the real world if a Superman did exist? And I love how this film and its successor treats that. In the real world, we would worry about him using his abilities, so I can see why the Kents want to shelter him, but at the same time, I didn't agree with them telling him not to save people and to let him die. That's very anti-Superman. And while we're on the subject, I call bullshit on the death scene of Jonathan Kent. That tornado, I understood why he didn't basically go out and save his father. He wanted to keep his identity secret, but the real Superman in previous incarnations, with or without abilities, would have tried to save his father, and it does not have the same impact as Glenn Ford's death or the previous Jonathan Kent's death in other incarnations, because in the other ones, he didn't save him. It was natural causes of a heart attack, and it even shows you that Superman can't control everything. He can't save everyone, even with all his abilities. So this really took away from that great theme that makes the character. Above all, it is basically a first contact movie, not only with Superman, but Kryptonians. At the beginning, General Zod gets sentenced to the Phantom Zone, and after the destruction of Krypton, they basically thrive to survive, and they make it to Earth when a distress signal is found on a ship. This ship is like thousands of years old, and that's where we're introduced to Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams. Personally, I don't really like Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois in this. I really wish they dyed her hair, made her look like Lois. She has some of the sassiness and other elements of Lois Lane, but for some reason, her and Henry Cavill, I just don't like their chemistry in this, and it feels like a forced romance. It doesn't feel natural. Ultimately, they would work on their chemistry in Batman v Superman, but here, it just doesn't do it for me. it's not the strongest to say the least. Even though I do like some moments they have together. So after that, the distress signal is sent, and it's pretty much an invasion movie from there on out, with General Zod and the rest of the Kryptonians invading Earth until Kal-El is found. Jor-El, when Kal-El was born, hid this thing called the Codex, which pretty much contains the DNA of all Kryptonians to recreate life, like Krypton, in Superman's DNA. So they don't need him alive, and dead or alive, they're going to get it. So it's pretty much Superman rising against this alien invasion. It's a true First Contact origin story. And in that, it's actually a really solid action film. You have a battle in Smallville that's spectacular, and the ending fight is very, very well done. A lot of people complain about the action and the fighting, and sure, he should save people, but this is his first time as Superman. Second of all, the comics, the cartoons, they did it before, and this is what a Superman fight really would look like. I don't know if it's just the way it's translated onto seeing it in live action compared to animation or comics, but that's how a Superman fight should freaking look. I love that about this film. The fighting is really well done, and it is a controversial ending with him snapping Zod's neck. In the original ending, Christopher Nolan wrote that they were going to be put into the Phantom Zone, and they decided to change that a bit, to show why he doesn't kill. Ultimately, another method could have been done, but he did show remorse, and that's more than Christopher Reeve, to say the least. He killed Zod without showing any sign of pain or regret. Henry Cavill, him shouting in that one scene, really shows you Superman's agony and just pain in doing that act. And really helps develop his character in this incarnation. Faora is just badass. Wow, I wanted to bring her back to fight Wonder Woman. She is an amazing character. She steals a scene from General Zod. Michael Shannon's Zod is a little bit weak. It's not as strong as Terrence Stamp, and I really wish he said kneel before Zod. Other than that, it works for this military type of Kryptonian in this incarnation. Overall, this film is much more epic than I thought it would be. Is it the best Superman movie? No. Is it the one we needed? No, but you know what? It's an enjoyable film, and I'd rather see Superman throw a punch than to watch him try to lift a Kryptonian island. Superman Returns was a better made film, but this is a better Superman film, if that makes sense. I know people can argue that with maybe like his morality and the way he acts as a character, but to me, this felt more like a Superman movie. The scene where he flies, everything about it. Overall, they really treated this as a 21st century Superman. It's not the same type of Superman we've seen before, and I think they've done a really good job at trying to reestablish the character in the 21st century. Henry Cavill completely surprised me, and I thought he did an excellent job. The score by Hans Zimmer is fantastic. I love this soundtrack. Such an epic soundtrack. The soundtrack is actually better than the film and makes the film. I love the stuff with Jor-El. Russell Crowe really plays a great Jor-El. The beginning stuff is great. Any cons? I would say the story elements with Lois and Clark at the beginning and the flashbacks are a bit disjointed. I love some nods they have. It definitely has a Smallville, Lois and Clark, Superman Ventures vibe. But ultimately, it really comes to form when it becomes an alien invasion movie, a First Contact film. When it comes to the alien invasion First Contact movie, Battle of Smallville and Battle Metropolis, that's where the film really takes off. And Superman begins to rise. Even though it is a bit rushed, it's not your traditional Superman. I do like it for that fact. So if I had to give Man of Steel a score, I really want to give it an A-. I enjoy it, but as far as a film, I give it a 3.5 and a B+. It's an enjoyable film, but it's not the best Superman film. But it is very, very enjoyable, and it's up there. I like it as much as the first two movies with Christopher Reeve. It's the best among that. It's better than Superman 3, Superman 4. I like it better than Superman Returns. And that and BVS are really good. This is a good start to the DC universe. You get so many other nods. Wayne Enterprises, before they announced Batman on the satellite. Ted Kord, which is hinted at with Morgan Edge, and the appearance of Darkseid. LexCorp being shown. References to Green Lantern's girlfriend, Carol Ferris, and Star Sapphire. You get so many other nods to this film, and I just love it when he's under that terraforming machine. He looks very much like Christopher Reeve there, very Superman. Above all, it's an enjoyable film. It's not the best movie, but again, it's really, really highly entertaining. I love the fights. The cinematography is just beautiful. It has an epic feel to it. Him in the black suit, I love that part so much. I even have a portrait of it on my wall and an action figure. Yeah, this really turned me back into Superman. I wasn't sure what to think of this after Smallville, but it was nice to see a Superman that can fly. I love the effects. Some of the computerized effects you can't tell. They computerized some portions of his cape. I like the suits that the Kryptonians are in. The ships, everything about it feels really epic, and it's kind of like those early movies. It's kind of one of the early films to do that whole blue laser into the world scenario. But above all, those are the movie's strengths. I don't really like Jonathan Kent's portrayal. And Amy Adams is a bit weak as Lois Lane, and there's like a forced romance there, and her always needing to be saved, which is a good case, but it does really just feel like it's just added on there for the sake of it. It doesn't feel natural. But I do like it where she's saved in that one part. It feels very much like a comic book when Superman saves her from the terraforming machine. And that whole part with Zod where he's like, you took everything from me. And he's like, you're a monster, Zod, and I'm going to stop you. I just love that moment. And who could forget that ending when he decides to work at the Daily Planet? Such a perfect ending to Man of Steel and a great start for what's to come. A B plus and a 3.5 out of 5. Man of Steel is an enjoyable ride and it's super. If you haven't seen Man of Steel, I highly recommend it, and watching Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition afterwards. And if you have seen Man of Steel, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Just tell me what you did not like or what you did like about the film. And yeah, if you like this video, click the like button, comment again, and subscribe for more videos.